Chapter 3. Bandit Camp. As they press on, the air grows tense with unease, the memory of the stranger's words lingering. Bernard sharpens his focus on the tracks, while Joy and Marlene exchange wary glances. The group trudges through the thick undergrowth, following Bernard's keen eye. Tracks lead them deeper into the forest, boot prints mingled with cart tracks. Bernard pauses, raising a hand. The tracks split, he murmurs, crouching low to examine the ground. Looks like he's trying to throw us off. The left path seems fresher. He's banking on us being cautious and going the longer way. Let's take the risk. Joy exchanges a glance with Marlene, who shrugs. We've come this far. Let's not lose the scent now, Marlene says. The trio follows the left trail. The forest thickens, sunlight barely piercing through the dense canopy. The sounds of birds and rustling leaves grow quieter, replaced by the occasional snap of a twig underfoot. Bernard halts again, pointing to a broken branch. There are more tracks in this area. We're closing in. Joy narrows her eyes. With the signs of carts and boot prints increasing, we are probably nearing a bandit camp. Keep your guard up. Bernard kneels by the edge of the path, examining the surrounding tracks with sharp precision. His fingers trace the scuffed earth, his expression hardening. The trail's clearer now. We're closing in. There. Marlene whispers, pointing ahead. Through the trees, they can just make out the flicker of a campfire and the faint outlines of a few well-made tents. Bernard signals for them to crouch low. That's it, his camp. Looks like there are quite a few of them. From their position, they can see several figures moving around the camp, bandits armed and not alert. The bandit leader himself is unmistakable, his imposing frame silhouetted against the firelight as he sits at a card table with 5 other bandits. Joy crouches low, her sharp eyes scanning the camp through the trees. She pulls her cloak tighter around her, blending with the shadows before turning to the group. We wait for now, she says, her voice low but firm. We need to watch the camp. If we go charging in, we'll be walking straight into an ambush. Better we thin their numbers first. Marlene, you're up. The illusionist nods, her hands already twitching as she focuses. I'll create a distraction, she says with a sly grin. One at a time, right? Exactly, Joy affirms. We'll lure them away from the main camp, one by one. We hit fast and hard. Take them down before they know what's happening. Bernard watches the camp warily, gripping his bow. And once we've thinned their numbers, then we go for the leader and the rest of the bandits. Joy says, her gaze steely. By then, we should have a chance at him. As the group settles in, the tension in the air is palpable. Marlene, her eyes gleaming with focus, begins to weave her illusions. The first bandit will be easy to lure, Joy thinks, watching the camp from the shadows. They know the bandits are not aware of their presence. They'll capitalize on that. Just be ready, Joy whispers, her voice low. We take them one at a time. Marlene nods, already starting to cast her spell. A flicker of light appears in the distance, faint at first, but then becoming more pronounced. A glowing figure resembling one of the bandits, staggering slightly as if injured. The illusion is crafted perfectly, pulling on the instincts of the guards to investigate. The first bandit, clearly eager to prove himself, stirs from the campfire, where he's been lounging and heads toward the flickering light. He's alone, too eager. Perhaps the trap is set. Joy and Bernard move into position, waiting for the signal. The bandit steps closer, completely unaware of the threat looming, just beyond the illusion's reach. Marlene whispers the final words of her incantation, and the illusion becomes more real to the bandit, making him think he's catching up to a vulnerable comrade. Just as the bandit reaches the clearing, Joy gives the signal, and Branagh, with swift precision, drops down from the tree he's hidden in, tackling the man with a force that knocks the wind from him. The bandit struggles, but Joy is there, her movements fluid as she snaps his neck. The fight lasts mere seconds, and in the silence that follows, they have eliminated their first bandit. Let's get back to the shadows, Branagh advises, his voice barely a whisper. One by one, they repeat the process, each bandit tricked by Marlene's illusions, lured into traps and swiftly dispatched. After several hours, the number of enemies in the camp has been reduced, and the bandit leader remains unaware of the danger closing in on him. Last one. Joy says softly. The bandit leader remains at the card table with the 5 other bandits, seemingly unconcerned. Once we take him out, we end this, Branagh replies, his tone steady but fierce. The tension is rising. Everyone can feel it. I'll support you two at a distance with ruinous incantations, Marlene says, already preparing. Make sure you're ready for the real fight. With the camp nearly empty of its guards, the group knows it's time. They will strike hard and fast, with the bandit leader as their final target. Let's do this, Joy says, her voice hardening with resolve. They move into position, ready to finish the job. The bandit leader remains seated at his crude wooden table, surrounded by the dwindling number of his lackeys. The 6 remaining bandits, tense and alert, shuffle nervously, sensing something is amiss. Joy watches them from the edge of the shadows, her fingers tightening around the haft of her great axe. She's had enough of the sneaking. It's time to end this. Without hesitation, she steps out of the tree line, her voice a booming growl that silences the night. Bandit leader! Most of your men are dead, and you're surrounded. Surrender now, and you might just live to see another sunrise. The leader pauses mid-sip of his ale, placing the wooden cup down slowly as his lips curl into a mocking grin. His beady eyes scan her, then flick to the shadows where he assumes others must be hiding. The bandits beside him tighten their grips on their weapons, but make no move without their leader's command. Surrounded, you say. The leader chuckles, his tone dismissive and mocking. He leans back in his chair, spreading his arms theatrically. And what do we have here? A lone barbarian with more guts than sense. Listen well, woman. I've killed more seasoned fighters than you before breakfast. My men would die for me. Would yours do the same? No. I didn't think so. He rises from his chair, his hand resting on the hilt of a massive, jagged blade. His men look to him, rallying behind his bravado. You've got guts, I'll give you that. But you think I'm scared of a wildling with a big axe. You're just another fool trying to play the hero. Let me tell you something, little girl. There's a storm coming. Bigger than anything you could ever understand. So go ahead. Try your luck, but you'll die here tonight. Joy's expression hardens, her muscles coiling like a spring ready to snap. You talk too much, she growls, and in one swift motion, she charges forward. The fight begins. Branagh steps from cover, drawing his bow in one fluid motion. His first arrow whistles through the air, slamming into the shoulder of one of the bandits, who had been reaching for a crossbow. The man howls in pain, dropping his weapon and stumbling back. Marlene stays at a safe distance, her hands weaving intricate patterns as she mutters the arcane words of her spell. A shard of frost materializes in the air and launches forward, striking another bandit in the chest. Ice blossoms across his torso, slowing his movements as he gasps from the cold. Joy barrels toward the leader, great axe raised high. He meets her charge with a roar of his own, swinging his jagged blade in a vicious arc. Their weapons collide with a thunderous clang, sparks flying as their strength meets in a brutal contest of power. Come on! Joy snarls, pushing him back with sheer force. She spins her axe in a wide arc, forcing him to dodge. Behind her, Branagh and Marlene keep the remaining bandits at bay. Branagh's arrows fly true, dropping one after another with precision, while Marlene's rays of frost harry their movements and slow their attempts to close the distance. The bandit leader snarls, swinging wildly as Joy presses her attack. She ducks under his blade, her axe slicing through the air with devastating force. The leader barely blocks it in time, the impact forcing him to stumble back. "You're stronger than you look," he spits, blood dripping from a cut on his cheek. "But strength alone won't save you?" Joy smirks, her eyes gleaming with determination. "I don't need saving, you do." The fight rages on, the sounds of clashing steel and the cries of the wounded filling the air. One by one, the bandits fall, leaving the leader alone to face Joy's wrath. He fights fiercely, but it's clear he's outmatched. Finally, Joy lands a devastating blow, her axe cleaving through his guard and striking him across the chest. The leader staggers, dropping his weapon as blood pours from the wound. He falls to his knees, glaring up at her with a mixture of defiance and fear. "It doesn't matter," he gasps, his voice a ragged whisper. "You can kill me, but you can't stop what's coming." Joy raises her axe, her voice steady and cold. "I'll take my chances." With one final swing, the fight is over. As the echoes of battle fade, Joy stands over the lifeless body of the bandit leader, her axe slick with his blood. She clenches her jaw, frustration simmering beneath her exhaustion. "Damn it," she mutters, her voice low but heavy with regret. "We needed him alive." Branagh slings his bow over his shoulder, stepping closer. "You didn't have much of a choice." He wasn't going to surrender. Marlene dusts herself off, her hands still faintly glowing from the frost magic she'd cast. "Even so," she says quietly, "it would have been good to know who hired him and why." Joy exhales sharply, glancing around the camp. "Let's see if he left us anything useful. If we can't ask him questions, maybe his things will." The three of them begin searching the camp. The bandits' gear is mostly crude. Rusted weapons, patched armor, and stolen supplies. But near the edge of the camp, Branagh finds something of interest. "Over here," he calls, gesturing to a cart hitched to a pair of wary horses. The cart is loaded with weapons, swords, axes, and shields, as well as crates of rations and supplies. Joy inspects the haul, her brows furrowed. "Enough to supply a small army," she mutters. Whoever was backing him wasn't sparing any expense. Marlene speaks up, her voice tinged with unease. "What kind of bandit gang stocks up like this? These aren't just thieves. This is something bigger." But their search continues into the bandit leader's tent. Inside, they find maps, a ledger, and a worn journal. Joy flips through the journal, her expression darkening with every page. "Listen to this," she says, reading aloud. "Another shipment of these cursed bugs to the temple in Nesmi. I don't like dealing with these people. They're dangerous and secretive. I've tried digging into who they are, but all I've found is whispers of some dark cult. They pay well, but I can't shake the feeling that we're pawns in something far bigger." She pauses, scanning further. Her latest orders were clear. "See, attack the Mithril Hall caravan, capture it, and infect them with these things. They want the dwarves to carry whatever this is back to their city." Branar's face hardens. "Infect them? With what?" Joy doesn't answer immediately. Her gaze is drawn to a small wooden box tucked under a cot. She picks it up and hesitates before opening it. Inside, she finds a collection of strange, writhing worm-like bugs. With many legs, 20 of them in total. Their movements are unnatural, almost hypnotic. Her stomach churns. "These," she says grimly, snapping the box shut. Without another word, she strides outside and throws the box into the campfire. The wood crackles, and the bugs screech faintly as they burn, releasing a foul-smelling smoke. Marlene watches with wide eyes. What were those? Joy shakes her head, her voice tight. "I don't know, but they're better off destroyed. It doesn't matter what they were planning. It ends here." The three gather near the fire to discuss their next move. "This goes beyond just bandits," Branar says, his tone serious. "If they were working for a cult, and those bugs are part of it, we need to let Nesme know." "And the Mithril Hall," Joy nods. "We'll take the cart and head back to Nesme." But before that, she stops, her voice trailing off as a familiar presence fills her senses. Arsa, her spirit bear, appears before her, her translucent form shimmering in the night. Only Joy can see her. The bear gazes at her with knowing eyes, then turns her attention back to the tent, pawing at the ground as if pointing to something. "What is it?" Joy asks softly. She follows Ursa back inside the bandit leader's tent. At first, she sees nothing unusual, but then her eyes are drawn to a small, clear display case on a shelf. Inside is a tiny lute, intricately carved and gleaming faintly in the dim light. Joy picks it up, puzzled. "What is this?" Ursa's voice is calm yet cryptic. "A key, a tool. You will understand when the time comes. Keep it safe, Joy." The darkness stirs, and this will help you fight it. Before Joy can ask more, Ursa fades, leaving her with the mysterious lute in hand. She tucks it carefully into her pack and rejoins Marlene and Branar. "What was that about?" Marlene asks, noticing Joy's distant look. "Nothing. Just something I need to hold on to." Joy replies, her voice steady but thoughtful. With their findings packed onto the cart and their determination renewed, the three set off toward Nesme. They travel with purpose, knowing they must report their discoveries to the town guard, investigate the temple, and warn the Mithril Hall of the danger that looms. As the road stretches ahead of them, the weight of their mission settles on their shoulders, but they press on, ready to face whatever comes next. The journey back to Nesme took 2 days, the trio traveling along the winding roads through the dense forests. The first day passed uneventfully, giving Joy, Marlene, and Branar time to gather their thoughts about the discoveries at the bandit camp. They camped near a small stream that night, setting up a modest campfire. Branar, as usual, kept to himself, sharpening his arrows and tending to the horses, while Marlene and Joy sat closer to the fire, enjoying its warmth. Marlene shot Joy a mischievous smile as she stirred her tankard of tea. "So, Joy, about that night at the inn." Joy groaned, her face already flushing at the thought. "Do we have to talk about this again? I don't even remember most of it." "Oh, but that's why we do have to talk about it." Marlene grinned, clearly enjoying herself. "Let me remind you. You were hitting on every man in the place. The baker's apprentice, the poor bard with a lute that was out of tune, even old Gerald with one tooth left in his mouth. Joy groaned louder and buried her face in her hands. "I get it, Marlene. I was drunk. Can we move on?" Marlene cackled, taking another sip of her tea. "Fine, fine." But there was one man who actually seemed interested, Garrett, the town guard. Joy lifted her head, a flicker of surprise in her eyes. "Garrett, really?" Marlene nodded. "Oh, he tried to play it cool, but it was obvious. He couldn't take his eyes off you, even when you were trying to arm wrestle half the tavern." She smirked. "He seemed to like your strength. Guess not all men are intimidated by you, huh?" Joy snorted. "Well, that's a first. Most men don't stick around long enough to even find out my name. Besides, I don't remember the night much." "You should see where it goes," Marlene said, her teasing tone softening slightly. "He seems like a good man, and gods know you could use someone who appreciates you for who you are." Joy fell silent for a moment, staring into the fire. "Maybe," she muttered, "but let's not get ahead of ourselves. There are bigger things to deal with right now." Marlene nodded, the conversation turning more serious. "Speaking of which, this dark cult, what do you think they're after? What kind of people pay bandits to spread those bugs and attack caravans?" Joy shook her head, her expression hardening. "I don't know. But whatever it is, it can't be good. Those bugs, they were wrong, Marlene. Just wrong. And if they're using them to hurt innocent people..." Marlene shivered. "It's twisted. Strange bugs. Caravans targeted to infect their passengers, and now this connection to Nesme, whatever this cult is, it's big. And dangerous." Joy nodded. "We'll find out more when we get to Nesme. And then we'll stop them, whatever it takes." The two women fell into a contemplative silence, the crackling of the fire and Bernard's quiet movements the only sounds in the night. The next morning, they packed up camp and set out early. The journey was smooth, the road to Nesme quiet and clear. By late afternoon, the walls of the town came into view, and the trio pushed on, eager to report their findings and send word to Mithril Hall.
Ritter, why don't orcs ever become wizards?
I don't know, Beans, why?
Because every time we read a spell book, we end up using it for toilet paper.
That's nothing. Why did the goblin bring a spoon to a sword fight?
Why?
Because someone told him to stir up some trouble.
All right, enough jokes. We got serious business. The Orcish Writer team is working hard to get content out faster.
Aye, well, sorta. We're still learning stuff. Turns out, figuring out software is trickier than trying to teach an ogre how to count past 3.
But don't worry. Once we get the hang of it, things will be smoother than an elf's fancy silk underwear. So stick with us, you lot.
And in the meantime, like, subscribe, and share the videos, or we'll replace your breakfast with goblin stew.
Yeah, and trust me, goblins don't taste great.
Footprints faded in the mud, echoes of the fallen herd, breath of silence heavy still, secrets hidden in the chill. tracing paths where shadows